Cut it. Cut it, man. I cut you. Got to cut it. Cut it here. Cut it here. Cut it here. Alright, I'm going to start off part 3 here. What I'm going to be doing, my ride height I think is going to be a little tall in the front. Originally, when I had the suicide front end, the center line of the wheels was in line with the center of the frame roughly. And now I got about 3 inches, the frame's about 3 inches taller than it was before, and I want to try to maintain the same amount of ride height I had originally. So obviously there's no weight in this, so the suspension's going to go down a little bit, but probably like another inch or so. But I think what I want to do here is I want to flatten this front crossmember out a little bit, take some of the drop out of it, which will raise where the spring mounts, which will lower the frame. When it drops, I might have to C-notch the bottom of the front frame rails to have a little pocket for the spring to work in, which is no big deal. But I want to drop the whole front of this down and get it back to about the ride height that it was when I had the suicide front end on it. Alright, so you can see here, so a chunk of frame rail left over from the back, 2x3. But the thing I might do, because this is 3 inches wide here, just a shade over 3 inches wide, I might actually make a new crossmember out of this piece of tubing. Still cut my lines here, and I have an overlap where these tabs will sit on the new piece, so I get a little bit of an overlap. Then I'm going to pocket out the front of this down to 1 3/4 or plus a quarter, like the 2 inches, so the 1 3/4 spring will sit inside here. I'll suck the front end in like this crossmember sucks in, and then use this for the new crossmember here. This will drop the height of or raise the height of the crossmember about 1 inch, and should give me what I want. So there might be stress on the front end, even though this is in here. I'm going to go ahead and tack this piece of tubing across the inner part of the crossmember here. It's riveted to the frame. I'm going to tack this in here to keep the thing from going all loosey-goosey when I cut it apart. So that's the next step. Tack this in, get this cut out, and start whittling this sucker down. Okay, hit it. Aha! Ta-da! So, look at this! Bam! That'll work. Let's go ahead and I'll shorten this up a little bit and grind this around and start fitting this in here. So maybe I will go and trim this just a little bit higher and get this up another 1/2 inch, and then I can always adjust it with a shim later. So maybe I'll do that. I'll think about it. We're showing 0 degrees here. So the way I cut the cuts, I'm putting about 3 degrees of caster into the crossmember backwards, which would be negative caster. Model 8 crossmembers were 0 degrees caster stock, or might even been like +1 degrees. They for their dirt roads they're set up with almost no caster. But now on modern roads and modern tires, you want to at least, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 degrees of caster at least in the axle. I like to run like 10. So let's go ahead and get this marked out and start trimming this thing up and make this happen. Look at that! That'll stay there like magic. I was talking to Bill and he's like, "What's your angle, son?" And I said, "I don't know, let me get my angle finder." All right, I got the new center here made. It's leaning back. It's just sitting on here. It's not at the right angle, but I've got it notched out here. It's 1 3/4 wide for the spring, and I'll weld in the front of it here later, but it sits right here. I'm going to have gussets overlap. I'm going to have butt weld this and put some gusset plates on here. And then, I'm going to be running swivel shackles on this. They're swivel perch bolts with a swivel on them. But if you're using standard traditional shackles and you want to run like 7 degrees of caster in your axle, you gotta match the cross member to that, or else you're going to be binding the suspension trying to, your spring's going to be vertical, and if you're trying to lay the axle back 7 degrees, you're putting all the bind in the axle. And I've seen people actually try to force like wishbones up under stress and put them together. That's real bad. I love the swivel shackles. These swivel perch bolts are just like a Ford, but Ford, it's all cast or forged in one piece, and these are 2 pieces and they bolt so the spring can move. So say your spring's vertical like this, and you want to run some caster in your axle is free to work in suspension. It's not going to bind. A stock perch is going to be like this, and it's going to, all the force is going to be in the shackles and everything when it tries to work and move around. So I like to run these. This is a cast one I found that was a cheap aftermarket one. I only run forged ones because you don't want this to break, and this has got a real narrow party line, so I'm pretty sure it's cast stainless steel. But I got it at a swap meet, and they only had one, so I think the other one probably broke because the guy had this part but not the bottom, and I'm pretty sure it broke. But I bought it for like $1 just to have to mock stuff up with. So anyways, here's the cross member. I've got it notched. I'm going to be making a concave piece to put in here, just kind of mimic the look of this, except I've bumped the where the spring goes all the way to the back, which doesn't matter for me. So the radiator will sit flush against the back of this here, and then I'll re-drill the holes, and I'll re-drill the holes here, and the U-bolts will go over, hold the spring in, and this will be boxed in like that. But I'm going to go ahead and get it tacked into the frame here. I want to show what happens when you weld something. This is the bottom of this tubing I cut off, which all rectangular tubing is a welded seam. And then I cut this off of here. Look at the welded seam had pulled the material, and when it was in the box tube, it was straight. When I started cutting it, it went naturally with what I wanted to do, and it curved at least a good inch and a half. I mean, you can see the weld seam there, but look at how much it just curved on its own from the stress of having it be welded and then cutting it free, where it didn't have the rest of the tubing to hold it in shape. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Just want to show you what I did here. I took my straight edge, and then I used these 5/16 bolts as shims to get the proper distance, the same distance from here to here, so I can tell that the top of the crossmember is perfectly straight and level, better than checking it with the level here. So I got the same distance, and I measured it down with it's like 13/32 from here to there, and the same. So I double checked it by eyeball with these bolts as a gauge. And I got my angle finder. You can't see it, but when I go this way, there's 5 degrees of negative caster on the cross member, which is pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep welding this in, and then I'm gonna drill the hole for the spring in the center, and then set the spring in here and make this front plate. Let's cool a little bit, lay out my center bolt hole. Yep. Alright. Got my 3 holes X'd out for my center pin, and then the 2 holes for the for the unit here. And then the U-bolts go. This should work good. Should work good. Look at that! Bam! Where in the world did that piece go? Cast iron piece. Appears to have disappeared into the night. Aha! Oh, look at that. Bam! That's so money. And they got plenty of adjustment. It's just a little bit loose. They had a lot of adjustment in that Crossmember. So this will be perfect. It's lined right up with the center pin hole. I can see that. The U-bolts will go right down around. I'll just get the spring in here and then I'll form this piece. It's going to be awesome. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Man, that's way down there now. I'm definitely going to have to C-notch the frame, because I'm touching the frame right now. But you can see the spring pack in there. That took this thing way downhill. We had 18.5 inches before at the rails. Now we got 16.5. So man, that dropped it. That dropped it 2 inches. I like it. That was really worth doing. I gotta get a wide angle lens for a stupid camera. I gotta be so far away. Alright, I got my front plate made here. Stuffed in. It encapsulates the spring all the way around. The top piece still fits on nice, and the U-bolts will go right over. Spring plate will go right around here. Perfect. Look at that. So, just got it tacked in for now. Go ahead and I'm going to pull the spring out because I don't want to get the spring hot. But weld this up. Alright, so here's the top brace, just to beef this Crossmember up because it was 1/8 inch, so now it's got a 2 piece of 1/8 inch. So I made this strap. It's going to be fully welded here, just under the it's going to be fully welded here under this spring mount, and I'm going to plug weld it, these holes here. The 1/2 inch holes, I'm going to plug weld here and then weld the ends, and I put some detail holes in it just for a little bit of look because you'll see it through the grill. I'll probably end up mounting the license plate to the front behind the grill, but this will be visible because the radiator will be back here, so you'll see this. So I threw a couple of holes in it with a hole saw just to dress it up a little bit. So I'll go ahead and I already gusseted the front just with some solid plates on the front here, and then next I'll make the back plates and finish the Crossmember up, and I'll flip the frame over. Okay, so we got this all ground down. We'll make a template back here out of this hard stock for making these boxing plates. Use my dirty gloves to kind of rub a line on here. Trying to rub some lines, and I can use pencil pencil lead to find some lines too. Well, I got a little bit of a line here. I'll cut this out and make a template. That'll work good. And actually, I probably don't need this little tail because I just run it down. That's just riveted on. Yeah, I probably don't need to put that tail on there. I'm going to trim that off. Bink! I like that. Yeah, that'll work. I'll have overlap to do my splice on here. Oh, just find a piece of stock to make it out of. Let's use my handy dandy tracing marker to trace this out. Let's see what's the best way besides the flattest. I cut out the least amount of waste as possible, but that's probably going to be hard to do. That's where having a plasma cutter come in handy, because this is a odd shape. I could blast it out with a plasma cutter or a torch, but I don't have either, so it's onto the grinder again. Alright, so I got my gusses made here. Go in, they butt up overlap on here, and they fill in all the gap left by where I cut the crossmember out. So go ahead and clamp these in place and get them tacked on here. Wondering why I keep adjusting my knee? I fixed the rip in my pant legs with zip ties, which seemed to work kind of alright, but now every time I kneel down, I freaking kneel on a little zip tie, which really hurts. Actually, take this one out probably, because that's not doing anything. That might help some, but I kept getting the cut caught on stuff and ripping it further, so I had to do something. So, stitched her up with some zip ties. Get my hand dammer out. That ought to work. I'll get a couple tacks and I'll tap it, and tack and tap it, and tack and tap it. That'd be a good name for a British bar, the Tack and Tap It. That'd be a good name for a singles bar, the Tap and Tap It. That'd be a good name for an equestrian-based singles bar, the Tack and Tap It. I'll have to write that down. That'd be a good name for equestrian-themed online dating service. Would you meet on farmersonly.com? No, man, I met her on tackandtapit.com. Huh? Now we got an overlap from where the crossmember started. Tied all together, overlapped on the front, overlapped on the top, overlapped on the back. Doubled up, so I got almost a 1/4 inch thick plate up here. I think we're doing pretty good. While I'm at it, I'm making my boxing plates for the front of the frame rails. So what I did is I got some 1/8 inch plate, and it basically goes all the way up to the front of the crossmember here. I've got a little bit of a jog in it because I want to have a step back look for these boxing plates. So I slip them in behind my original rail, which they butt up flush here, and then they kick over about a 1/4 inch, and I step box the rail, and I made a little jig or tool here so I got a sheet metal tool to hold the back of this. I set the front in, and I hold the back tight, and then I use my little jig, and it steps off the frame. Then I'm going to stitch weld this 1-inch intervals just like the rest of the plates around here. I'll solid weld the crossmember tie-in, but this will box the front, tie the boxing plates from the original frame and tubing of the frame all the way into the front crossmember, which will make the frame really stiff. And I added a couple of 1.5-inch diameter holes for if I want to run some wires or something through the frame. I'll put another 2 in the back. I'm also going to use fluid film. I've got a fluid film application gun. If you don't know what fluid film is, you can go to fluidfilm.com and look. It's a lanolin-based rust proofing. So I'm going to take my fluid film gun with a whip on it, and I can stick it in these holes, and I can fluid film the inside of this frame so I won't get any more rust, because it's bare metal all the way back, and there's no way to get really any primer all the way down inside the rails the whole way. So with the holes in the front here, I can applicate fluid film from both ends and rust proof the inside of this frame so it'll last forever. Ow! Damn it! Ah! That was the freaking axle! Ah! Alright, so I'm going to continue on stitch welding this, and then I'm going to grind this all down, and then we're going to flip the frame over and start doing the notch for the spring to clear because the crossmember is so low. So I'm going to go tack this and we'll get back to it. I'll get back to you in a minute. Whoa! Damn it! I hate when that happens. I got the boxing plates all welded in on the bottom. I got all this ground down. This front crossmember is all welded in. And I think the frame was 18.5 inches to the top before this. Now we're at 17. So it's dropped 1.5 inches. And when I put the engine in, it'll probably go down another inch or so. And when I had the suicide front end, the center line of the wheels was in line of the center line of the frame, and they're about, I don't know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches off that. So I think with all the weight on the truck, it's going to go right back down to the ride height that it was, or within 1/2 inch or so. So that's what I was looking for. This definitely needed to be done. I'm going to go ahead and order my Perch bolts and stuff so I can set the front end up like it's supposed to be. I'm going to split the wishbone, get the mounts for that, set this whole front suspension up, and then I'll be able to get a couple more things going. So it's looking good. It's going to be down in the weeds. That's where I like it. You know what they say in Chicago? We like 3 things in Chicago: the Bears, the Bulls, and our trucks in the weeds. So that's what I'm talking about. Huh? Oh, hello there. Woo! Fez says, I said good day. I said good day.
To bring brow sculpting to
Brow Diva.
And it happened organically.
The Brow Diva.
I tell you that every day I walk into Brow Diva, I am grateful and I'm humbled and I appreciate each.
Can't believe I screwed that up. Damn it. Well, that's what happens. That's what happens. Too much fun. Getting crazy. Come on, man. Bam! Need a wide angle lens for this thing. I guess I'm freaking far away. Can't see nothing. Damn!